So, okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Shelby, why don't you intro yourself so people can know who you are?
Okay, so I'm Shelby, and do you want to intro and then share why we decided to homeschool?
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
good.
So I'm Shelby. I have a 6, 3, and 2-year-olds. My kids are still very small, but our son, our oldest, went to a Christian preschool for 2 days a week, Tuesday and Thursday, for 3 hours each day, which was like nothing, but it goes with the story. And so I remember taking him, loving his teachers, loving his school, nothing wrong with the environment that he was in. But I remember in the mornings hustling and being like, okay, get the kids up. We got to leave this house by 7:45. I have 3 kids to get her. We got to make breakfast. We got to get them dressed, get our shoes on, run out the door, put them in the car, drop them off. Hopefully it's not raining during that time of year, rushing him in through the door, dropping him off, coming home with the littles, and then doing it all over again before lunch and rushing home. And I remember like 2 or 3 months in telling my husband, I'm like, I hate this. I don't want to do this forever. Like, I don't want to rush. And I was like, our kids are going to get to an age that they're going to want to play sports after school. I was like, what do you do when you pick them up from school and they want to play sports? You drop them off at sports, you come home, you have a 7 p.m. dinner, you hurry and do their reading for the night, and then you put them to bed. I was like, when the heck am I going to see my kids? I'm like, I don't like this. And my husband's kind of like, well, it's the way of the world. I don't know what to tell you. It was kind of always his mindset. I'm like, no, I don't like something. I know we can change it. And so then the Lord put homeschool in my heart. Randomly one day I was driving and I just like started thinking about homeschool and like imagining about it. And I would laugh. I'm like, I'm never going to homeschool my kids. Like, not in a million years is that going to be me. And so the Lord like pursued my heart time and time again. There was random ladies at the grocery store that would come up to me and ask me if I ever thought about homeschooling. And I'm like, why are you asking me this? Like, so random. There was one time at my Bible study, some lady stopped my car in the parking lot and said, this is so weird, but I saw you, the Holy Spirit led me. And I just wanted to ask if you've ever thought about homeschooling your kids. And she was a homeschool mom. She like shared her story with me. And I'm like, okay, let's look into this. So we decided to homeschool November of 2019. COVID hit March 2020. And I was like, thank God that we had already decided to homeschool, because I know so many moms were thrown into it without the desire or feeling like they had the
Sorry, it just froze. Are you still talking?
No, I'm done.
Okay.
For now.
I think did it freeze for everybody else? Yes. Okay. Shelby, just recap like the last 2 sentences that you said. I think you stopped that people were thrown into homeschooling and they didn't have the desire.
Yeah. So I feel like March of 2020, I've heard a lot of people say like, I tried homeschool this last year and I didn't like it. And I'm like, you didn't do homeschool. You did virtual school of hell is what you did. Like, it was not homeschool. It was do what you're told. This is how you do it. Your kids sit on a computer for 8 hours a day and you have to tell them how to do everything. And I don't believe that that's at all what homeschool is. So, yeah, I'm excited for this call. I'm excited to kind of share our hearts about homeschool and what the actual beauty of it is, and that it's not maybe your perception of it or whatever so far.
Yes, totally. Okay, so if you guys don't know who I am and you're from Shelby's page, my name is Aubrey. Both of us are actually local in Arizona and we live like 10 minutes from each other. So we got connected 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and just became fast friends through life, basically, like very similar lifestyles and things like that. So anyways, I'm a mom of 3. My story is a little bit different because I have an almost 16-year-old, you guys. He's literally about to get his license, and it like breaks my heart that he's getting so big. Literally, the funniest thing, this is such a tangent, but like we just built our house. We were putting up a pool fence. We were debating between mesh and metal. We went with metal because I was like, we can be grandparents in like just a handful of years. Isn't that wild? So anyways, I was almost 16-year-olds, a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. So we co-parent with my son and his mom. So he is not homeschooled. There's a whole different dynamic with that. I want to be totally transparent with you guys here. He desires it. I desire it, as does my husband. But it's just this weird dynamic of we're not going to fight what we don't need to fight. So with our 6 and 4-year-olds, we have always planned to homeschool. At least my husband did. So he was a homeschool family, and he's one of 4 siblings. And can you guys hear me? Someone said, yes. Okay, good. So he is one of 4. They were homeschooled. His mom was just amazing. But she knew that her purpose was to do what God is calling her to. So when we got married, he always said that we'd have homeschool kids. And I'm like, you're crazy. We're public school kids. Like, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Even though my desire was always to be home with my kids and to be a mom, that was like what I felt like my purpose was, that God laid on my heart. But it took me until my oldest daughter was 3 or so that I was like, okay, I hear you, God. You're like pushing homeschool on our hearts. So this was 3.5 years ago or so. Like 6 months of just God pursuing me over and over and over, just like Shelby shared in her same situation. I was like, okay, we're homeschooling. This is what we need to do. So I started really super slow, honestly, because she was like around that pre-K age. And the more we dug into it, the more I was just like, yes, this is where we are meant to be. And then like Shelby's saying, when COVID hit and people were like, I feel like anytime I went to the store, people were like, oh, you homeschool or you're doing it just because of COVID. And I'm like, no, we're like pre-COVID homeschool family. Like, I feel like I have to say that because it can be so normal and people are trying to make it not normal. And you feel like it's like a weird thing. And it's not at all. This is literally about listening to a calling and shepherding your babies and guarding their hearts and loving them and nurturing them and being a safe place for them, because the world is going to eat them up and spit them out. And we are called as moms and dads to shepherd them. So we're going to talk a bunch about that tonight, share or go through all of the questions and things. But yes, my desire has always been to homeschool after my oldest was 3. So she is now going to be starting 1st grade, and my youngest is doing pre-K stuff this year as well. So Shelby, you want to dive in with some of the questions? Because I think a lot of the questions will start answering like systems and all of that kind of stuff. Or what were you saying about like your desire to homeschool? That's good.
Yeah. So we'll just kind of bounce back and forth with questions, or if we have something to add with what someone's question was or whatever, we'll chime in.
Perfect.
So I'm just going to go with the first question I got. It says, where do I start? Which I think is like everyone's question is, where the heck do I start? So it depends on your state. You literally only have to Google, how do I homeschool in my state? And the website's going to pop up for you. I know in Arizona, you have to have like an affidavit and you have to get it notarized within 30 days of starting school with your kids. So I think we're going to decide to start the week of August 16th. So by September 16th, I need to send in a notarized form with his birth certificate saying we're homeschooling him, and that's it. Obviously, if you live in a state like New York, New Jersey, or California is getting a little bit rougher to homeschooling. They just passed a new law this last summer, but any state you can homeschool in, it's just dependent on kind of what they require of you. In Arizona, they don't require you to do standardized testing throughout the year with your kids. Like, it's a pretty lenient state if you're in Arizona to homeschool, but that's where you get started, is you do that. Do you have to get that signed every single year? Someone asked. Yes, it's every single year. You have to get it signed. You do not have to start until your child is 6, though. So last year, I didn't do it, even though I did like pre-kinder with Finn last year. I didn't have to fill out the form because he wasn't 6 years old yet. So it's just once they turn 6.
I was told that it was every year. So I would just confirm with your state. Taylor just said that she heard it was a one-time. Just confirm it with your state, you guys, and we can never be too safe about it. But yes, exactly. Thank you, Lindsay, for putting that, because it breaks down the rules for every state. That's perfect.
Yeah.
And you guys, honestly, they're very lenient, because I 100% forgot to send ours in, and Emery was like 60 days past being 6 years old when I finally sent it in. And within like a week, I got all of my stuff back saying, okay, we have it. You're good. All of that. So yes, that's your first stepping stone. One of the questions that I got to that kind of goes hand in hand with this is, what made you decide to homeschool, and was your husband on board with it? So I want to talk about our
questions.
Yeah, so I want to talk really quickly about spouses and them being on board or not on board. So we hear a lot that either one spouse thinks it's a great idea and you're all on board 100% ready to go, and the other is like, socialization is going to be all thrown at a loop. You're not ready to commit to it. But I'm going to give you the like hard, blunt truth right here, you guys. Homeschooling is called being a parent. Like, if you go back in Bible times, this is literally what school looked like for people. So I'm probably going to ruffle feathers here, and it's a safe place. But I'm telling you guys, people are so scared to step up and parent right now. But guess what? We chose to have children and we chose to put them in this world. And with that comes responsibility. Now, I know that there are circumstances where you literally can't, like you have to work to be able to put money on the table, all those things that have to line up perfectly to be able to have a schedule that's open. But if it's a priority to you and you see this desire to love and nurture and be that guard for your children, you will figure it out. So first and foremost, that's why I want to talk about spouses a little bit, because there can be a disconnect, I think, with spouses in general, because one isn't a super hands-on spouse, maybe, when it comes to being a parent in life. So also with that, they're probably not educated on it. And there was a lot of times when I was first getting involved with so many different things, but it's years, I never bring it to my husband because I'm like, I just feel like I'll be pushed down or it'll be disqualified or something. But guess what? That's on me for not actually bringing him the research and the things that I am desiring in my heart to not communicate it to him. So if you're a mom or a dad on this call right now and you feel this being called on you, you need to bring the research to your spouse and give them the reasons why you want to do this. That is my biggest thing when it comes to getting a spouse on board, and also making sure you're open communication when it comes to what this like schedule and workload in a sense can look like. I don't see it as work. I see this as time and opportunity to spend with my kids. We literally get the teeniest, tiniest window with our babies. So if we can be the ones that have the most impact and influence in their life, isn't that what you want in the future? And then when it comes to like socialization, you guys, my kids are way more social and doing things. Our schedule is more full than anybody that we know that's in public school. And that's up to us. We're choosing to be able to do that, which I want to call on Shelby then and have her share a little bit about co-ops as well, because this is not all on you moms and dads when it comes to choosing homeschool.
Well, first I want to say something on the husband thing, because Aubrey's husband was homeschooled, like she said. My husband and me, we went to public school our whole education. I hated school because girls are mean. And my husband like loved school because he was friends with everybody and all the things. So we had just two very different perceptions of public school with each other. So I knew we had decided to send our kids to a Christian school before our son was like, by the time our son was 3, we had decided to save and, you know, send all of our kids to a Christian school. So we had already cut public school out of the picture. But when I had brought to his attention, I was thinking about homeschooling. He's a very gracious man, but also sometimes he doesn't know when to like hide his facial expressions. And I just remember him being like, no, heck no. And I remember just being like, no, please, like I'm really praying on this, thinking about it. And he was like, I trust you and I know that you never do anything lightly with our children. He's like, so I'm sure you have a bookcase of research that I need to look at, but right now my answer is heck to the freaking no. And I'm like, okay, well, just look at my research that you know I have. So I sent him all my favorite YouTubers, made him watch Day in the Life. Like I would ask him at the end of the day, I was like, what'd you learn about so-and-so's Day in the Life today? Because I'm like, you need to like do the research with me. And then I had him read, I'm going to share these books at the end, my 2 favorite homeschooling books, but I had him read some books. And I just really sat down and had those hard talks with him. And he came to the understanding with me of like, yeah, let's do this. And I went into homeschool with him to a point of, if we ever feel like this is not the right choice for our family, we can reevaluate. Every single year we can reevaluate. I'm not saying this is forever, so on and so forth. After this last year of homeschooling and then him seeing the craziness that is our world, he literally told me like 2 months ago, he's like, our kids are never going to school. I'm like, God is good. He works hearts. He works in people's hearts. So with the husband thing, I think you have to be gracious with your husband too, because I think you can't just go to your husband and be like, this is what we're doing, get over it, because you are one. You shouldn't ever talk like that to your husband. But I also think that you should come with the research and a heart to listen to his side too and have those tough conversations and be praying for his heart if he's totally against it. Okay, you asked me about co-ops, right? That was the other thing?
Yes. Yeah, no, everything you said too, I echo. Thank you for saying that.
Yes. So with the co-ops, there are different kinds. There's branches, there's classical conversations. Those are the main 2 that I'm really aware of that I've looked into, but there's tons of co-ops you can do. You can just go on Facebook even and type in homeschool co-op and then type in your state, and there's tons of Facebook groups. I am personally leaning a lot towards Classical Conversations because it is a Christian-based curriculum. So one of my good friends does Classical Conversations, and how her situation looks is every single Monday she goes, she takes all of her kids, no matter their ages. She takes like a baby with her, and they do class all day. So they'll do like science, geography, math, reading, link. They'll do everything in a day together. And they, like I said, they meet once a week. They do like Valentine's Day parties and like a fall festival together. Like that's kind of where they get that socialization. With co-ops, I know a lot of the time the question is like, how do you afford that? Because they can be somewhat pricier. And you can tutor in the co-ops and get like, if not for free, like a very huge discount. And then kind of like Aubrey said, like, if you want to do something and we're called to shepherd our kids, this is going to be very blunt, but it's like, is your gym membership $165 a month? How much do you spend at Starbucks? How much do you drop at Target? How much do you spend on those Lululemons that we all love? Like, there's sacrifices that can be made for anything that you want in life. You can sacrifice. You had to probably sacrifice something to go to the gym. So it's those kind of things that are give and take. A lot of times people will say like, I can't afford homeschool. I can't afford to do this and this. And I'm like, well, you probably can't afford a lot of things you're doing in your life. So what matters most to you? Like you can kind of figure out your budget and all that stuff in between.
Yeah, I want to touch on that just briefly too, because based on the one that you are using and going with, so I was actually talking to somebody about this last night just in my DMs, and knowing that my husband came from homeschool family, all of his siblings homeschool now too. So 3 of my nieces and nephews go to a co-op together. It's called Branches here. That's local. And you actually don't have to pay for it. You just have to volunteer as the mom or the dad. That's part of the household. You have to volunteer a set number of hours to then have your children attend. So it's like a big community type thing. So it's nice, but it's a requirement as well. So like it's a commitment with it. We have been thinking and praying about how we want to approach co-ops, and my girls really want to do Branches because their cousins all go there, but we're going to be doing Classical Conversations, not this year, like this coming year, but the following. I'm kind of in the headspace of I wanted to step slowly into homeschool. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. My first year, we decided to do year-round school because it's an adjustment, like, and life happens, but that is the grace of homeschooling, that we're able to breathe through things and we can adjust and we can do 4 hours on a Sunday afternoon. If that's when our kids are feeling motivated, we can stop and take brain breaks. We can go on vacation for 2 weeks and come back and double up on lessons if my kids are feeling it. But those are all things that can be gracious with our schedules when it comes to things. So anyways, that's why I decided not to do co-op until my girls are a little bit older. So that will put my youngest in kinder and my oldest in second at the time that we choose to, or in second, when we actually choose to start Classical Conversations. So
that's what we decided to. We are going to do Classical Conversations when Daphne starts kindergarten. Because I'm like, I feel like I'd want at least 2 in Classical Conversations instead of bringing 1 and then dragging the babies with me and having to watch them with him. Like, just like enjoy. I think that a lot of times I got questions in here too about like, at what age do you start? What this? And I think that the world has made us forget that kids are kids. Like I honestly was not stressed about school last year with Finn. Even going into this year, I'm like, he'll figure it out. Like he's only 6 years old. I feel like kids don't need all this pressure to learn to read, to write, to do all these things until they're like 7 or 8 years old. Like just let kids be kids and don't feel this pressure as a mom. Like someone reached out to me the other day and said, I don't know what to do. My 3-year-old doesn't even know her colors yet. I'm like, you know what? I'm a 30-year-old woman and I might not know all the shapes. Like it's going to be okay. I'm still a functioning human being. And so I think we just put so much pressure on ourselves that our kids have to be like Mozart. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get my kids to love Jesus and be a kind person. Like you can't put all this pressure for your kids to be something that maybe God didn't desire for them to be.
Yeah. And finding local co-ops too. You guys try and find some local homeschool groups that are around you. That's a really great place to plug in because there's so many other local people in the community that homeschool. So there will be a lot of resources there. And kind of like I always try and say learn to fish, but like once you're added to those homeschool groups, use the search tab, use the categories tabs, like search it out, ask the questions, find the answers to be able to educate a little bit more.
One of the questions I got, which I got a lot, was what to do when they don't want to practice writing regularly. But another form of the question was, what do you want to do when they don't want to do anything, kind of thing. Like they don't want to read, they don't want to do this. It was like a repetitive question. And I think this is where we talk about, you'll hear homeschool moms say all the time, homeschool is not school. And I think you have to wake up every single day and tell yourself that homeschool is not trying to mimic public school, Christian school. You're not trying to mimic the school system. And so my rhetorical question to you would be, what did you do when your kids don't want to take a nap when they're little? What do you do when your kids don't listen or behave? What do you do when your kids don't want to put their clothes away? Like it's the same concept of, you can't look at it as like, well, I just can't teach them. They don't listen to me. I'm like, well, somehow you've survived as their parent for 7 years plus, and they're alive and they're functioning. So they've listened to you in some capacity. So they do listen to you. Maybe you're not listening to them. And so I had to really step back last year in homeschool and have a very humble heart and know that I do not know everything. And that sometimes my kids can tell me that I'm wrong and it's okay. Because there'd be times I'd be trying to teach Finnegan something and I'm like, he doesn't listen to me. Anything I say, it goes in one ear, out the other. I suck at this. Just get a tutor or something because I can't do this. And then I realized like maybe the way I'm doing it with him, it's just not clicking. And that's the beauty of homeschool, is that he's not stuck in a classroom with 30 other kids and they're all getting something and he's not, and now he's the outsider. And now I have to go see the counselor for him because he's falling behind and he's not smart enough or whatever it may be that happens in the public school system. And so I was able to have those conversations with him of like, hey, why don't you want to do your reading today? And he could tell me, I don't know, it's just too hard. And I'm like, okay, well, if it's too hard, you want to build houses one day. You think you're going to be able to read the instructions if you don't know how to read? And have those conversations. Or maybe it's, he doesn't want to sit at a desk and read. So instead we're going to go play a game and learn how to read, or whatever it is, how your kid learns. I think getting to their level, them understanding that this is a team effort and that I'm not trying to dictate you. I'm trying to have a relationship with you and see where I can help you and where I can help you grow. So if your kid doesn't want to do something, how'd you handle anything else they didn't want to do their entire life up to this point? Because I'm sure they've told you no at one point in their life.
Yeah, I'm just answering questions over here on the side on some co-op things. And then, Anna, we'll come back to your question here at the, actually, we can answer it now because I would have just said the same thing that Shelby did. So Anna's question is, when you get to the point that your kid's curriculum exceeds what you feel like is your ability, her boys are 10 and 9, and she doesn't know how she's going to do middle school and high school math. Same.
Yep.
Okay. I like, by the grace of God, graduated high school because I don't even know. I had to take math, algebra, something like 4 times. I am not good at math. But here's the thing. You are able to hire tutors for this. You can reach out to other homeschool families who maybe have somebody in their life that excels at what they're doing. There's another mom, and maybe you do really great at English or grammar and language arts. There is so much grace and community when it comes to homeschooling. So for us, I've already told my husband, and he knows this, we will be hiring somebody to be helping with the math because I'm not doing it. I can tell you now, honestly, like kindergarten stuff, I'm like, what? I get it, but I have to like read the curriculum a few times to understand the way that I need to teach it, right? So we're going to be budgeting it out for that kind of thing, but also, again, reach out to homeschool Facebook groups in your area and see if there's people that like, you excel at science, you really wanted to be hands-on with a cooking class or something. Mm-hmm. Find somebody else that loves to do math and you guys trade it's like totally doable and people do it all the time.
I read something the other day too that said, if you're a homeschool mom, you just got to be one step ahead of your kids. So it's like, if you know, like, so when my son gets older, my other kids get older, if I know like, okay, we're going to be doing algebra next year, I'm going to give it a little whack at it. We'll see how it goes. And if I can't figure it out, we'll be getting that tutor real quick. The other thing is, you know how many like high school kids want to make extra money? Okay, teach my kids how to do this math, please, and thank you. So there's so many ways. Or like Aubrey said, you can do switch offs. So my cousin was homeschooled her whole life in California, and they did switch offs for certain subjects that one mom excelled at and one mom did not at all. Or dads. There was a lot of dads that did science or math in their area because they were just better at it.
Yeah. Lindsay, thank you for saying too that there's different curriculums that do computer based. So they learn online. Andrew, my husband, did so much of his stuff in his older grades online. So it was really just kind of figuring it out in that way. Honestly, I'm probably going to be different in the way that we structure it because I don't want to sit my kids in front of a computer to where it feels like it's virtual learning again. Like I really want that homeschool nitty gritty type experience. So we'll just be delegating it out when we need to. Let's go back to socialization a little bit. Alyssa's asking, can we talk about socialization? I'm in a co-op and my son still doesn't seem to jive with the other kids. He'll be 6 in a few days. I think I get worried already because I see other kids his age having birthday parties and such, but we aren't at that point. So here's my thing with socialization before we move on to the next subject. When it comes to being in public school, what people think is socialization, guys, I cannot get my words out tonight, I'm sorry, is sitting in a desk where you are not allowed to talk or get breaks. Like literally, is that socialization? Because like I can't like turn my head to talk to somebody or stand up and walk around to go get a drink of water, go use the restroom when I need to go use the restroom. Like you guys, I've literally had to pee every hour for my entire life. And growing up in public school, I had to ask my friends to save their hall passes for me so I could bank hall passes to literally be able to go pee during classes. Like that is not a joke. And that is not fair. Like literally my teachers would get mad at me that I was trying to get up to go use the restroom. I'm like, lady, I have to pee. I'm not like hanging out in the hallway doing nothing. And like I was always a really good student except for math in high school. But like those are the things that I think about. So when it comes to socialization, my kid is not socialized when they're in public school. I think about my son a lot too. He gets in trouble so much in his younger years for talking constantly. And that's just what he knew because he was around people at preschool with his Nana and then all of his church family. Like he just was an active, talkative child. But when it came to school, public school, he would have to move desks all the time. And they finally isolated him in a corner because he would talk to his friends and distract them. But it was because he was done with his work sooner. So his mom and I had to literally ask for packets. He'd test up, he'd get extracurricular stuff, but he was never able to sit next to other people. He'd have to stay in isolation because he would continue to talk. Like, does that seem fair? Is that what the environment that we want our children in? When it comes to socializing, we have to remember that we're the ones in control of that when we are doing homeschool. We get to pick if they are seeing friends from church, if they're seeing family members, if you as a mom are plugging into mom groups. Like that feels really scary to me. I don't like talking to new people if I don't know them. And I put my guard up. I'm an introvert. It's really difficult for me to let my guard down and even say, yes, I want to go do a play date at the park with some moms that I'm friends with online. Like I'm the person that's like, yeah, I'll be there in 10 minutes, but I'm still in my towel after showering. And I'm like, I'm not actually going. So think about it that way.
I think too, I was just telling Jake, because I got a lot of questions on socialization, and I was just telling Jake, I'm like, I remember in class, like when I really think about school, I'm like, I socialized outside of school more than in school. Like we did many conversations in the classroom, a 20-minute lunch that you're just scarfing your face really quick before you have to get to your next class. And I think the biggest thing is we need to remember kids learn everything. And my head's going towards elementary school kids right now because that's where my kids are at. But I'm like, my kids repeat everything that I say. And by God's grace, he protects my tongue a lot of the time to not say things that I want to say that they would repeat. So I sit and think like, do I want them learning what socialization is from kids at school who I don't know what their vocabulary is? I remember, like I said, my son went to a Christian preschool 3 days or 2 days a week for 3 hours when he was 4, and he came home the first week and looked at my daughter in her eyes and said, "Shut up, I hate you." And I remember being like, where did you learn that? And I was so mad. And I'm like, okay, well, then I found out there was a kid in class that said that to all the kids. So my mind goes back there where I'm like, you use socialization as an excuse, but what is your definition of socialization? Like my kids can talk to anyone about anything because I teach them how to have open-ended conversations, open-ended questions, how to get to know somebody, ask their name, ask them what they like, you know, all those things that I think when we choose to use school as a reason for our kids to socialize, we're actually just using that as a backbone for maybe another reason we don't want to actually have to homeschool our kids.
Yeah, it takes work, you guys. When it comes to socializing too, like we have to be committed to choosing that for our children. And I love what, who was it? Rachel said up here, it doesn't have to be exclusive to kids the same age as our kids. When like doing life with people in your life is so precious to be able to have that time with other people. It can literally be cooking with family and like all sorts of different things, going to the grocery store, teaching them how to balance like a checkbook. Essentially, if they get an allowance of some sort, you're writing it all down. And guess what? You then get to take them to Target and they can buy a little toy. They're socializing, talking to the Target cashier as they're paying for their things. Then they get to go home, and that's a whole lesson in itself on math and learning about money and counting it out. So we have to think outside the box, and we have to challenge ourselves to say, yes, I'm parenting, I'm choosing homeschool, I'm going to socialize my children, period.
Mm-hmm. Another question I got that I'm sure you got a lot too, Aubrey, is patience. And I remember two things. I remember a seasoned homeschool mom telling me something that I'll never forget. She said, I don't have more patience than as a mom who sends her kids to public school. I just get more opportunities to practice my patience. And I'm like, yes, that is so true, because trust me, I am a sinner saved by grace. My flesh always wants to come before going to Jesus. And so there's times during the day that I'm like, I'm gonna rip my hair out. But I'm given that opportunity to practice my patience. And if you came from my page, you know that I've really been praying this last year for God to fix the anger that's underneath the patience and not just pray for patience. Because if you're getting mad at your kids, it's the anger that's rooted underneath your patience that Satan is overruling. It's not necessarily the patience. Ultimately, there's no reason for us to snap at our kids. It's never going to be our kids' fault. They're children. They can only speak in the currency that they can handle. And so I think it's just a time for you to refine who you are as a mom in person and practice that patience. The other thing a seasoned mom said to me is, she said, because that was one of my concerns, was like, I feel like I'm just going to be angry all day or on edge all day. And she said, okay, so would you rather have the opportunity to apologize to your kid day in and day out, time and time again, or would you rather still have those moments in the morning where you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, you're rushing out the door, you snap at your kid, and then you send them to school for 8 hours a day? And you hope and you pray that you remember to apologize when they come home. But 9 out of 10 times, they're going to come home and you're going to put a smile on your face and say, I missed you so much today. I'm so glad that you're home. And you're both going to forget about it, but they're not going to forget about it. They're going to have a memory of a mom or a dad rushing them out the door in the morning, constantly irritated, constantly frustrated, and then taking them from school to their sport, doing this, and in a constant frenzy, opposed to a mom who is constantly able to just apologize and repent in the moment of, hey, I just got mad at you for something that I shouldn't have gotten mad at you for. Can you forgive me? And so I think it's changing that perspective, like we talked about basically all these questions.
Yeah, it's hard to, you guys. And I mean, Shelby and I both work too. So I want to speak to the mom who maybe has something going on at home where they're trying to run a business while homeschooling, while being a wife, while maintaining a household, all of those things. Like, we wear so many hats, you guys. And I want you to feel justified and not disqualified when it comes to talking through what this looks like, because you can see us and compare in a way that I always compare when I go on social media. And that's not the purpose of this call. I want you guys to feel equipped to step out and empowered and be able to move forward in where the Lord is leading you. So because we work full time, our whole business, great opportunity to have my husband home with us full time as well. So it's something that we try and balance out. Like, he has the kids during my 3 hours of work during the day, while I am then doing homeschool with him, and he's working on our business at that time. But also, you guys, we have to step up and say we're wanting to start school by 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to, by the way. We typically didn't start until like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, if I'm being totally honest. But then we as moms have to say, okay, I need 2 hours of work. I'm going to set my alarm for 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. and I'm going to work before my babies are up, so I can be on a constant routine with whatever that looks like. Because then that helps us prioritize what we need for our work, for our headspace. Maybe that's Bible time, that's quiet time, having coffee in the morning. Because then if we're filling up what we feel like we need with Jesus before we step out and into our day with our kids, we're then able to express that better with them and not feel so on edge. The days that I start my day rolling out of bed when my kids are getting up, like I'm waking up when my kids are waking up, I am already immediately on edge. And it's a day of constant apologizing and asking for forgiveness over and over and over. So we just have to figure out the balance of, okay, what is my perfect ideal schedule? How can I put action behind that schedule and ask for help? Like, if you have people around you that are willing to take maybe a baby that you have for 2 hours once a week, or if you have a high school student that lives around your neighborhood and has a half day, have them come in and help out to clean your house. They can make an extra $20 while you sit and breathe with your children. There's opportunity to be able to delegate to then make this a joyful experience.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me go back to another question. That has to do with a little bit with spouses too. One said that they really want to homeschool, but her husband says no because they can't do clubs or sports or activities as a homeschooled child. You can.
Lies. Just kidding.
You can, you guys. Actually, my husband swam for Sunrise Mountain High School, so a public school. He played basketball for Sunrise Mountain High School, again, a public school, even being a homeschool family. I met my husband through my sister-in-law, who we grew up dancing together, like competitive dancing. So his brother was on band at Sunrise Mountain. Again, like there are so many things, you guys, that you just need to do the research to find avenues of getting your kids plugged in.
Like your kids just basically, let's say your kid wanted to play football at Liberty High School that's here. They just go to the tryouts like any other kid would. And they just have to be to the practice in the morning or in the afternoon, and that's it. They don't have to actually go to the school to make any team.
So you just give us your excuses and we'll knock it down for you guys. Don't worry.
Okay. Oh, sorry. You say.
No, go ahead. What's another one?
I had a couple people ask, what do you think you'll do after you're done homeschooling? I'm scared I'll lose myself. And that was like a lot of people's questions in there. And I'm not going to lie, that honestly was actually one of my fears, because one of my reasons to not homeschool was I had a vision for my life. I had a vision of dropping my kids off at school, going to the gym, grocery shopping, having quiet time after years and years of raising babies. And I'm saying this and it may offend somebody, but then I realized that was a selfish mindset. God gave me my kids not to raise for 5 years, but to very minimally, at the bare bottom, raise for 18 years where I am their sole provider. Ultimately forever, right? But legally 18 years. And so God just really stirred my heart in knowing that this is my mission. So I trust that the same God who gave me my mission to homeschool my babies for 18 years is going to give me my next mission, whether that be just be a grandma, whether that be I go get a job that's 9 to 5. I don't know what it is, but to live a life of, I can't homeschool or do this because my kids are going to become my entire being or my entire name. I'm like, I hope so. I hope that my legacy is my children. I hope that my children look back and they know that mom did everything in her power to be the best mom that she could be, to raise me, to teach me, to grow me, because that was a mission given by God. Ultimately, our kids are not ours. They were lent to us. I'm not their owner. I am their keeper right now for a savior. And so I just trust that the same God who gave me this mission will give me my next, whatever it is. He'll do it.
Absolutely. Really quickly on, are you worried with sports and activities that what they hear and pick up bad things, especially in high school? So it echoes literally what Shelby just said, though, you guys. We're their keepers right now, and we can only guard them so much and for such a period of time. So I'm kind of in this stage right now, having an almost 16-year-old, that we're in this like weird transition of him having to listen to me, and I'm the authoritative figure of him living under my household, but also like bridging the gap of, we're going to be friends here in the next couple of years. Not that we aren't now, but like, there's this, I'm like walking through this right now. So I'm literally just like speaking it out how I feel it when it comes up. There's times that, I feel like I need to guard and protect him because I am mom, right? But then he's a sophomore. He's literally has his permit and is driving. Like, I cannot be the one that is constantly guarding him from everything of this world. My goal is to raise him up to be a man of God. And then when he is put in the position with those types of things, I am hopeful that I've raised him the way that I want him to go. Right. And to use discernment to have those kinds of interactions. So it's a weird balance, you guys. Like we literally just want to hold our babies like so, so tight. And I'm in this stage of kind of like, okay,
Maybe a little bit.
ooh, you have to go now. And like, you're going to spread your wings. And I mean, really, he's probably going to be like 22, still living in my house. But the reality is we can only guard them so much. And we just hope and pray that in our early years with them, they know and can use that discernment to be a light for Jesus, because those are stages in their lives that they're going to have to make mistakes, and they're going to have to learn from those mistakes, and they're going to have to repent and ask for forgiveness. And that's between them and the Lord, right? Okay. That's enough about that, I think.
There was a lot of questions about like feeling incapable, which we've kind of touched on, but I had was watching I literally follow all the homeschool YouTube moms because I just feel like I can gain wisdom from them. And they were talking about, one of the big excuses is that I'm incapable of homeschooling my kids. And she had said, you weren't incapable of teaching them their first words or potty training them or teaching them to walk or teaching them, normal social skills up to the age of 5. So what makes you think now your capability in parenthood stops at the age of 5? Like, that's kind of just what the world has taught us, or what Satan wants you to believe, is that you could teach them, you literally got up every 2 hours to either breastfeed or formula feed your baby for years. And then you taught them to walk, you taught them to talk, you taught them how to use a potty, which if you've ever potty trained a kid, that's the Lord's work, because that's not easy. And you did all these things up to this point, and now you think your capabilities just stop? You think you don't know how to teach them how to read, how to write, how to do normal daily things that you yourself do every single day? Like, that's Satan. That's not from Jesus. Like, we have to retrain our brain and unlearn all these things that society has told us, because they're just blatant lies. They're not true.
Yeah, all of that, you guys. Okay, a couple of questions that I'm getting is like curriculum, lesson, what days kind of look like. So I do want to keep it at like 1 hour, you guys. So let's kind of move into a few things of those. And if you guys liked this thing, like, please let us know after the fact, because it could just be a fun thing to do every quarter or something, like a refreshed homeschool call.
It's like a check-in. How's everybody doing?
Are we surviving? We'll be good. Okay, so first, this one should be a pretty easy one. Somebody asked us like tools to help your daughter to succeed in reading. Mm-hmm. So one app that like, we're not opposed to apps and stuff. I give my kids a little bit of iPad time, but it is only with educational teaching apps. So my very, very, very favorite is Learning Homer or something like that. And you guys, I've been reached out to them so many times to collaborate and share their stuff and be an affiliate. And I'm like, no, I'm spending the money. I love the programs. I feel like they are worth it. That was a really big game changer for my now 6-year-old to learn reading. So that is my one big one that I love. I know Shelby really loves Leapfrog Letter Factory for little ones, learning their alphabet and hearing the sounds and getting all of that. Actually, we got it today, Shelby. So I thought of you when I grabbed it. And yeah, so don't be scared to actually implement things like that. Leapfrog, yes, okay, it's free too. Khan Academy, how do you say that?
I think it's Khan
Academy. Okay, so check out different things like that, you guys. There was another one, that ABC Mouse is nice. It's just more expensive. There's options. Okay, so maybe I can do like a big list on Instagram stories of like, here's my favorite apps or tools or other homeschool moms that I like. At what age do the learning apps help? So I started implementing them like literally when my little one, it was 3.5 maybe. It was going through the alphabet. She would only get 15 minutes. And what I like about Homer is you have like a learning path. So like you build out their profile with what they know, how old they are, what they can differentiate and stuff. So it literally helps them walk through where they're at. With what they understand and comprehend at that time. It is just Homer, yes. Okay, second question that has to do with lessons is, how much time do you focus on a lesson that the child's not getting before moving on? We take lots of brain breaks in our house, you guys. We also love, love, love being outside when we do school, because it keeps their minds moving. But here's the thing, we do not have to literally go step by step in a curriculum book to teach our children what they need to know. We can get super creative with it. If my little one's not getting it, and I mean, honestly, it depends on what it is that we're trying to grasp. Sometimes, like Holland, my 4-year-old cannot. She literally knows the letters B and H, and that's like it. And it drives me crazy because I've been working with her for like a year and a half. So this is where the patience thing comes in, you guys. I've been working with her for like a year and a half, and she just literally does not get it. And I'm like, okay, we're done with school today. Like, I literally just like throw my heads up. I'm like, we're gonna watch. I told Shelby when she was at my house last week, I'm like, what do I do? Which is why we got the Leapfrog Letter Factory. Okay. So with that, it's literally
Every
3
kid
minutes.
is so different. Even
What?
in the same household, every single kid is so different.
Oh, totally. My firstborn she loves it. She's literally like, Mom, we haven't done school yet. It's time to go sit down and do school. Mom, come on. And then my younger, she's just like a little free spirit. So literally like 3 minutes with her. With Emery, my older one, I will sit with her for probably 10 minutes or something and try to explain it differently. If she's just not getting it, I see her shut down. Like, this is what's so amazing about homeschooling. It like makes me emotional because I can see her brain just like click when she understands something, and I can see her completely shut down and her demeanor change when she's just done. It literally makes me emotional. But it's such a gift to be able to be in this position and being the one experiencing these things with them. So when it comes to that point, I'm like, okay, it's time to go outside. We're going to go swimming. We're going to go jump on the trampoline. We're going to go do something else. And then we'll get back into it. But then that's an opportunity for me as mom to look at the curriculum and say, how can I be explaining this differently? Or take it out in nature, you guys. Like, if it has something to do with math, okay, I don't have to do that with manipulatives right here. Like, we can go collect 10 leaves and do addition and subtraction outside instead. So I'm going to stop crying. Shelby, how would you do that?
I also think sometimes what I have to do with Finn is like, maybe it's the last lesson we're on, and like you said, I see him just shut down, and I'm like, I lost him. He's gone. Like, we out. There's no one alive there anymore. And so I know I'll put a tab on it, and I know tomorrow we're going to start with that lesson, or like maybe later on that night, if we have the time, or my husband can put the kids to bed and I can just take Finn. It's like, let's just take 10 minutes and finish this lesson now, where he kind of like has had the day to just breathe and be okay and come back to it. Someone had asked in here, I'm going to answer this question, and then I say we talk about what our day maybe looks like in the curriculum we use. Okay, so someone had asked, would you be comfortable sharing general total cost for each year? We pay over $20,000 for our 2 boys to go to Christian school, and I'd love to know how this compares from a budget perspective. So this Christian school my kid was going to go to, it was going to be 10 grand per year. And then I think siblings were like 9 and then 8, and it like went down per kid. So we were like, I was gonna have to either go back to doing photography full time, or we were gonna have to figure something out, sell a kidney, I don't know, like to figure out how to pay for it. Homeschool is not that expensive. Once you start like getting the things that you need, I feel like it just gets kind of cheaper each year because you can reuse things. That's why I laminate everything. But right now, in these years, before we do classical conversations, which I'll talk about how much that is, I would say I spent maybe $300 or $400 this year, like on my curriculum, and then maybe some extra stuff here and there. Maybe I spent 5 or 6, but I probably didn't have to spend the extra 200. I just like having a lot of things that I won't use, and then I'll regret it. But I would say $300 or $400 in like the elementary smallish ranges per year for curriculum. It's really not that much that you have to buy. And there's free homeschool curriculums. You do not have to do, we do the good and the beautiful. You do not have to do that. There are hundreds of free curriculums out there that you can get. So technically it could be $0. With classical conversations, I think it's $650 a year per kid, which is a lot, but that's per year. It's not monthly or anything. And then if you have small ones that you're bringing, I think it's like $20 every 3 months or something like that. But if you choose to tutor and take over a class, so maybe when your kids get older, I think you get paid like $1,500 a year or something. So it could either cover all of your kids or cover a big portion of your kids too. So that's what I know about classical conversations, and then how much we pay for curriculum.
Yeah, I would echo that
too. The same?
Yeah, I think we were around 400 last year. I was just typing it out, but I'll just say it. And then I think we're around 550 this year, only because we're adding in some extra electives for Emery. So they're not like requirements based on her age being in first grade, but she loves learning. So it's just my personal choice to add in those extra things. And honestly, just like Shelby said, that first year is going to be getting like your manipulatives, the binder, like all the things that you'll use on a regular basis for school. It's getting those things like your first year. I would say probably budget around $1,000. That's generous. That's very generous. And then you're good to go from there. It's just a curriculum year after year. Okay, I hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
Do you do assessments at the end of quarters and end of the year? What progress monitoring do you do? So in our state specifically, this is all gonna be state specific, and I know Shelby touched on this, but just a refreshment, we do not have to have our kids do any state testing. So that'll be high school level for them.
Yeah.
Or middle school, sorry. Okay,
Yeah,
as far as curriculum, I'm gonna tell you about 2 curriculums that my husband's family uses, both when he was homeschooling and now. It's called Alpha and Omega. They've loved it. It is an online and book-based curriculum. We have chosen the good and the beautiful for our household. I have loved it. I really like the way it's broken down specifically, because it shows like in blue what mom says basically, and then what the kids actually do and read. So I am not changing it up. I've heard good things about Horizons also, but honestly, every homeschool mom is going to be totally different. And this is where it's nice to be able to watch YouTube, follow Instagrams that you're feeling really inspired by other homeschooling moms, because then you can see the curriculum. A lot of them like walk through it and stuff. Shelby, what are you guys using?
We do the good and the beautiful. The only difference I'm going to be doing this year from last year is for math. I got him Singapore math this year. I got him Singapore math to do this year, and then I got him all about reading, because reading seems like it's going to be a little bit harder for us than maybe I thought it was going to be. So one of my favorite homeschool moms had talked about that she used with her little. So those are the 3 things that I bought, and then, extra things here and there, but those are like our main curriculums.
Yeah, exactly. So what our days kind of looked like, Shelby is much more structured with her days and stuff, but I'm going to tell you, our first year was like a mess. We moved, we had deaths in the family. It was just wild. So we literally took like 6 weeks off at times, 2 weeks off. I already said that, but refresher. So our days, like in a perfect world, I would love to be up at 5 before my kids, work for 2 hours because they get up around 7, have breakfast, do our Bible baskets. We do a devotional and prayer memorization in the morning, talks through some scripture, and we just read through the Bible. I'm not like a devotional, read scripture through the devotional type person. I'm like, let's open Psalms and read through Psalms today kind of thing. So we do that. And then the girls get ready, get dressed for the day. So in a perfect world, on really great days that I feel like I was like winning at life, we were sitting down for school around 10 a.m. So we would do a language arts lesson with both the girls. So that would take maybe 30 minutes, not a lot. That's like very, very generous, adding in some extra activities with the curriculum. The girls would break for lunch around 11:30. We'd come back around 1 and we would do math and reading in the afternoon. So that's like my great day, like if I'm doing it. But literally today we sat down in the office at like 3 o'clock this afternoon, and they worked until 5 o'clock, and that was just what it was. And then we literally hadn't done school since 3 weeks ago. And we do homeschool year round just because we break it a lot. So Shelby's different. Go ahead, Shelby.
So what I've learned works best for us is first thing in the morning. So get my kids up at 7, we hang out, usually do worship on the couch like 7:30. Have breakfast, I get ready, they get ready, and by 9 a.m. I like to start our school day, and we do Bible basket. Ariel, in our Bible basket, which I think Aubrey's pretty similar, we have the color Bible. It's like $10 on Amazon, and I read the page and then they color it, and then maybe we'll add in like a memory verse, or we have like a hymns book that sometimes we'll do hymns from. We spend like 10-15 minutes doing that. And then because my kids are really little, I do tracing with them, and I have them trace their name, and then the alphabet. And then I start curriculum. So that's where I take my 3 and 2-year-old, and I'm like, go over here to a sensory table, or I get out magnets for them, or a puzzle, or something for them to do. And I open up the Good and the Beautiful workbook. I just do everything it tells me to do. It literally, you just read it and do it. And it's super simple. And then after that, I would do like reading with him and math and whatnot. I think this year I'm going to switch it up, like Aubrey said, because that was taking us all of that combined, maybe an hour a day. And so I think I'm going to switch it up and do math when my littles take their nap in the afternoon at 1 o'clock, and do math and maybe some science or something with Finn for some one-on-one time. But I would say if you have elementary school kids, 1 to an hour and a half a day is like pretty typical. Junior high and high school is probably going to be anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending on what your day looks like. Like if you're going to go year round, maybe it's only 2 hours a day for junior high, high school kids. I don't know if later on in life we'll work through the summer, but right now I really love having the summers off. Finn went through 2 curriculums last year, and we did it middle of August to, I think we stopped like in April, and he did 2 curriculums. So this year I'm going to slow it down a little bit so we don't get too crazy. But you can go at your own pace. And I would say 2 hours or less a day is pretty normal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's so much grace in that too, you guys. And when you really think about like the nitty gritty of how much time our kids need to be sitting and learning, like they don't need to go to public school and be there for 8 hours a day or add
What are
on.
they doing?
Like they're messing around, getting bad habits. At least that's what I did. I was not a good child. So it's night and day difference having the mindset of homeschooling my kids when I was like the crazy public school girl. Okay. Ooh, I think last question is just really how we prepare and organize our lessons. Let's touch on that just briefly. I want to honor your guys' time because we're like right at an hour or so, and then we'll save this. Okay, so for me personally, we have a designated homeschool space in our house. I work better having structure and consistency. So I set up like a little morning circle type board where it shows our memory verse for the week. We like to do a memory verse for the week. We have the day of the week, the month, the date, like all of that broken down. I have a like container store rolling cart, and I have Emory's curriculum on top, Holland's curriculum in the middle, and then on the bottom is just like extra things and books that they would be using. So we're very structured and organized when it comes to how we set it all out. And the night before, I like to set out, we have a big picnic table type thing up in their loft where it's at. So I set out their first lesson for the day. So I'm set and ready. I find if I don't, I'm not as intentional in the morning to like jump in right away and get going. And Shelby is a little bit similar to this. And she's kind of modeled a lot of things that our friend April from Five Girls Schoolhouse has. Shelby, you want to touch on that briefly?
Yeah, so I have a type A personality. Like I need structure or else there's a tornado and I'm going down and I'm dying. Like I just need structure in my day. And so April from Five Girls Schoolhouse has a printable schedule. It's like $5 or $8. It's not expensive at all. And it's a blessing. So I have a board in our homeschool room that I plan out Monday through Friday for Finn, what we're going to do. And then I have a little one for my little ones that I plan out what we're going to do. And then I don't have my planner, but I use the Plum paper planner. Yeah, Aubrey has one too, and I can plan out. I think that this last year I planned out weekly what we were going to do, and I think I'm going to try and do monthly because it honestly was really task like to every single Sunday sit down and plan out our week, opposed to maybe just going in and checking what we're doing and not having to like every Sunday night I'm stuck there for an hour planning everything out, getting things out and all that. So I think I'm going to switch it up this year and plan it monthly or quarterly so I don't have to spend every Sunday night doing that. But I like structure. I have a friend who hates structure, and she's a BA homeschool mom, and her kids are amazing, and they're very smart, very great, and very well-mannered. But like, if I were to ask her, what are you guys doing tomorrow? She'd be like, only the Lord knows. And I'd be like, okay, what books are you going to open? She'd be like, again, only the Lord knows. Okay. But like, her kids are brilliant. So I hope that everything we've said, you take it and know that how I do something, Aubrey does something, or all these other moms we mentioned, it is not how you have to do something. Like, you know your kids best. Again, you're not mimicking public school. You are the gatekeeper of your home. You are the mother of your home. You know your kids best. God equipped you for this. And only you know what your day is supposed to look like. So if you're not a structured person your whole life, don't try and be structured now because you're probably going to fail. Just figure out your system that works best for you. However you kept the kids alive up to this point is how you're going to keep them alive the rest of their life, basically.
Yeah, Shelby, share your couple books because I also love these books that she's going to share. If you're really just like digging in, read these books, ask other homeschool moms. I promise you will love them.
Yes, so this was the first homeschool book I ever bought. I think I bought this like October of 2019. And this was the book that I was like, yes, this is why I'm in homeschool. It's called Teaching from Rest. I think it's like $10 on Amazon. It's a super easy read, big words. I will read this every single year before I homeschool. I'm going to start reading it actually this week. That's why it was out. Because it totally teaches you, the whole thing is Teaching from Rest, a homeschooler's guide to unshakable peace. It's going to make you feel like you're capable of doing anything and everything in this world. It's just really well written. And then The Call of the Wild and Free. It's obviously well loved. This is more about basically the unschooling and retraining your brain on what homeschool is. So these are my two favorite books that I plan on reading every year.
Yes, The Call of the Wild and Free literally changed my life, you guys. It's when I was like, I am called for this. Like, I was so excited about it. So, yeah, just like Shelby said, I feel like we could literally talk for like 4 hours about this. So we'll cut it off for you. But I think it would be fun. Maybe tomorrow I'll just put another questions box on my Instagram and like save this all to a highlight, do a refresh Q&A for homeschooling. So if we missed your question, really like what it looks like working while also homeschooling. I know there are so many people that ask that and we didn't deep dive it a ton. But I also want to do a list of other homeschool accounts that I love to follow, a book list, our Bible baskets, all those things. So I hope this was helpful, you guys. Seriously, thank you for being here. Thank you for spending your time. Thank you for like loving your kids and researching this for yourself and for your family. I'm going to cry again. Shelby, say goodbye.
Thank you, ladies, for coming. It's greatly appreciated. We were like, what if one person shows up? I'm like, that one person's about to get rocked, you know? So, but thank you for coming. You guys are awesome moms. You're capable of anything and everything. And whoever tells you you're not, you do what Ross does. You just give them one of those, you know, what you do. All right. Thank you, ladies. Have a good night.